Hi, welcome to ThoughtWurx Inc., creating what works for you. Big business consulting on a small business budget. What we're talking about today is a project analysis and proposal, specifically a managed membership-based website tailored to your condominium association. So about us, we're dedicated to providing corporate clients in Canada and the US with leading-edge knowledge and marketing tools they require to automate and propel their businesses in the 21st century. We're an innovative small business boutique consulting firm specializing in mobile-friendly, self-manageable, auto-adaptive multimedia websites, business and management consulting, multimedia content creation, audio-video content development, branding, marketing, social media profile integration, and cross-platform advertising. The featured service we're talking about today is our mobile-friendly, self-manageable, auto-adaptive multimedia websites. These are mobile device-friendly content that works seamlessly across various platforms and operating systems. We use exclusively the Wix-based website content manager for a lot of reasons. One, it's a free platform for people just getting started, but there are various levels of subscribed memberships as well that offer more features. But the main points here is we have self-manageable content by the client. It is auto-adaptive and self-formatting for all mobile devices and tablets. It's cross-platform compatible, reduces development costs because once it's programmed, it's very easy to go in as an end user and make minor changes to the site, which offers long-term savings on maintenance, so you don't have to pay the web developer for feedback maintenance and other maintenance tasks that might be required. You also reach the growing mobile market. Over 80% of all mobile devices are initiating search results on the internet, so if your website is not mobile friendly, you're missing a big piece. And of course, this will give you a competitive advantage in business, or in this case, a condo association. And of course, this is super affordable to implement into a condo association's platform. So, why a private website for your complex? Well, condo corporations and the growing need for efficient management and more effective communication to all stakeholders in the 20s is really why you need this. So let's take a look at some problems and solutions that are currently facing condo associations. First of all, communication. Managing timely communication to residents, property managers, board members, and off-site owner-landlords can be daunting. From emergencies to maintenance notes to security breaches, and even just basic newsletter mailings can be costly to prepare, disseminate, and ensure delivery to various stakeholders. Now, despite your best intentions, someone is always left out of the loop. In the age of instant digital communication, there really should be no excuse. Second is turnover and security. As residents come and go on a monthly basis, whether they're owners, renters, guests, Airbnb, short-term tenants, condo boards face a daunting task in managing the people flow. Now, knowing who has access to the building at any time, where they are located, and how to reach their emergency contacts in case of a fire, flood, theft, or medical incident can literally be the difference between life and death. A property manager resident member database can make all the difference. Third is cost control. Condo boards are legally required to engage a property manager to help with administration and management of the property. Oftentimes, various tenants require key documents such as rental agreements, condo board minutes, bylaws, pet approval forms, locker and parking agreements, etc. And some of those often attract a heavy processing fee to receive. A centralized shared database of relevant files with coded access can help control costs most effectively. Fourth is feedback. In line with the need for better communication, the information flow works both ways. A secure members-only online blog and a feedback form enhances the ability of residents to read past notices, learn about current maintenance and security issues, reach key condo personnel, provide instant feedback to the property manager 24/7, provide suggestions to the board or other residents via community page, and even vote on key issues seeking their opinion. And finally, everything should be self-manageable. All residents and owners are required to keep the property manager updated regarding their personal contact details, such as their residential status, vehicle identification, etc. But not everyone does so in a timely or efficient manner. A membership-based website allows tenants to update their personal profiles whenever their info changes. Approved board members can edit the content database to allow in-house admins to control and manage the private resident info and the relevant file access for each tenant. So what we're going to do now is watch a demo of the website that I have created for one particular corporation. And we're going to look at both the front end and the back end platform. So the first view we're going to look at on this sample site called balmoromanor.com is what the public would see without creating a username or password, but just browsing the site in general. So I'll give a quick tour of what that looks like. So the home page gives some basic information. There's a blog. Some of it is available to people to read through. They can create a new account record if they want to look at the community page and read some of the articles. They do have to be a member of our site flagged a certain level in order to see what is in the backside. But the general announcements are here until you try to click on one and read the full thing. Then you have to create a username to log in. If we go up to the For Sale tab, this one here would be a listing for any condominium in the complex, any owner that wishes to list their property for sale. We can create a publicly visible posting on this page, and I've done one here for Unit 204. And this is all framed the same way for each unit, where there would be a quick little explainer video, a more lengthy video tour, some details about the property, local walk scores. If the person has a profile on Airbnb, it would be listed there. And then some details about the condominium property, which is common to any listing that goes on here. And then, of course, the specific features for that unit. There's also a place to put a slideshow to show what the unit looks like from the inside, and some comparable pricing of other units in and around the property area, and a place for people to request information from that particular owner simply by filling in this form. All right, if we go back to the top, as a non-registered user, just a regular guest of the site, the general public, if you try to connect to any of these other tabs, this is all private information. You cannot get to these tabs and see what's in there. But there is a general contact form that is available to the general public. So that's about it for the public view, and next we'll go on to what it looks like for a guest. Okay, the next type of profile we're going to look at is what's called a guest profile. So anybody who wants to look at anything on the back end side of the website, including the community page and reading the blog, will need to create a username and password to access the site. So they would do that just by simply clicking on Login and clicking Sign Up, and then filling in the information on this form, including what type of registration they're requesting. So if it's just a short-term guest or an Airbnb guest, they would pick that one. If it's one of the other options, owner on site or an owner living off site or a renter in the building or just a general website visitor, they would choose the appropriate option. But for now, we're going to select an Airbnb guest, and we're going to say that they're renting unit number 101. Okay, and fill in their information up there, click Sign Up. They would receive an automated email suggesting what they need to do next to confirm their application. And within 24 to 72 hours at the tops, the administrator of the site will code that person to have certain levels of access within the platform. So since I've already created a profile, I'm going to go ahead and log in with my sample profile as an Airbnb guest. Okay, so it's that simple. You end up back at the home page, and now it shows my profile as an Airbnb guest. So the first thing you're going to want to do once you create a profile is go down to your My Profile page. The profile page is the details about that particular guest. Now, before you can create a profile, you will need to create a new record. So the confirmation email that comes to the guest when registering on this site will have instructions on how to do that. If for some reason that email doesn't come through, or it's lost, or it's done at a time after the email was sent, you can always come into this page and click on Create a New Record. And again, it asks for what type of record you are, so we're going to choose Airbnb Guest, and then basically hit Submit. And what that will do is create a record in the master database, which then allows the person to manage their own information. Until that step is done, nothing can be managed. So I'm going to assume that's already been done, which it has in my case. You do not want to create a second record ever, because then that will supersede the previous record, and I'll have to manually delete that incorrect record for you. So let's pretend that's already been done. The next thing we're going to do is go to my profile. And you can read through this on your own, but essentially this is where you control your name, your unit number, your status, how many occupants are in your unit, a contact email and cell phone, home phone, and work phone numbers. This will be flagged by the administrator, whether that person is on the condo board or not. That cannot be changed by the user level. But the person can change these other flags, whether they have valid tenant insurance, bike storage. If you do, you toggle that on and you put the stall number. If you don't have it, you just turn it off and delete the field here. Same if you have a bike room access. Not everybody has a bike room access, but they might have a bike locker. So in which case you turn that off, but put the key number as blank. Bike storage would be the stall number. If you have bike room access, then you would click that on and put the key number that you have on there. And the locker storage, if you have a storage locker in the basement, you would toggle that on and put the locker number that you have. Down here, for emergency contact purposes, floods, fires, thefts, whatever, need to move vehicles out of the space, we need to know who's parked in the garage. So here's a spot for description of your vehicle. So you'd put the make, model, year, number, color of your vehicle, as well as the license plate number and the parking stall that you're currently using. It may be different than the one that's up here. Some people might swap stalls or rent them out. Okay. Emergency contact person, you would put down who you'd like to be your emergency contact, father, mother, brother, sister, good friend, whoever, and an emergency contact number for that person. So if there ever is an emergency, whether it's a fire, flood, theft, medical emergency on yourself, we need to know who to contact in the case of that emergency. As well, do you have any pets? You would toggle that off if you don't, turn it on if you do, and then put down the details of your pet and simply hit submit, and it will say the content has been submitted. So this is how every member, every tenant in this building can control their own information and update the board and make sure all of our records are always in sync. Okay. Another thing you can do here is you can click on edit. So the default will likely be your username when you first create it. But by clicking edit, you can change how that display at the very top up here shows up. Okay. And once you're coded as a guest or a tenant or whatever by the administrator, you'll have a flag here that shows what your status is. Now we do have a community page, so what determines whether your profile shows up, your basic details, not all your private details, but your basic details could show up in the community page. And you can choose to make yourself private. All right, so do you want to make yourself private? Other members won't be able to see you. You won't be able to comment on posts. You would confirm that to turn it off. That's the default setting when you first create a profile. But I suggest everybody say make profile public, because then you can have a community of members and tenants in the building that can communicate with each other and make posts to the general community page. So I would turn that on. It's as simple as doing that. All right, also you can scroll down these other ones here, my account. So this is your basic information. Everyone gets a private URL that directly links to their own profile, which you can change that suffix right there using this box here. You can update your name, email, phone number in the general database. As simple as that, and just click update. All right. In the public profile, you can write a little bit of a biography about yourself is in here, and you can put pictures, video, and a little story about yourself. And once coded by the administrator, your badge will show up in here of what your status is. Okay, and then you would just simply click publish. Now where that goes is into this community page down here. So on the community page, you will see the Airbnb guest is showing right here. And if I wanted to see, as another user on the platform, and I wanted to see somebody's profile, I could just follow that profile or click on it. Let's say I wanted to see Jim Steele's. I would click on his, and there'd be a little biography about him, and it would show that he's an owner and also a condo board member of this platform. Okay, now let's just go back to that community page. And it does show the current active guest here is the one I'm working on. I could go to my profile right through there, and I'm back to that box. If somebody decides to follow you on the platform, you would have a followers tab, and it would show who's following your comments. Okay, so hopefully we'll start to build a community within the residents, and if neighbors get to know each other, things move a lot smoother, and we can keep an eye out for each other. Blog comments, as comments are made on the blog, those will show up in here if you've made some, and if anybody has liked your comments, will also show up in here. Notifications, you can control some basic notifications about your blogs and whether to receive notifications by text or email and so forth, but we're not going to do that at this moment. But a lot of those settings can be controlled right in here, whether to subscribe to the blog, so when a new blog item is posted or an update is done, it will notify you instantly. So from the board's perspective, we can post a new item, and anybody who's subscribed to it will instantly get that communication. So it's a good idea for all guests and members to post to that, so that when those updated items are posted, everybody gets the notification right away. Now you can also turn on other things like likes, comments, follows, chat notifications, messages to you directly. The system will notify you instantly if somebody tries to communicate with you, whether it's a board member or another tenant in the building. Okay, that's pretty much it. If you're just a guest like this person, again, they have restricted access. They can't access the private information of these pages. So they can just go back to the site. If they try to access the renters, well, there's some information a Airbnb guest or a guest of a tenant would be able to access, but not very much. They can't, for example, access these pages as an Airbnb guest, but they can access now the blog. So if they want to read about the blog, that one they can't access. So certain ones they may be able to, but most of them they probably won't be able to. Okay, so that's the status of a guest or an Airbnb guest, and we'll move on next to the renter situation. Okay, moving along to the third category of membership on this website is the renter category. So I won't repeat everything I said about the guests because everything is the same from the perspective of a renter. They're just elevated one level higher in their access level on the site. So everything else is the same. We're going to log in, assuming that account has already been created as a renter. And what we're going to do is I'm going to log in as my temporary sample account for a renter. And now you'll see that I'm a rental tenant. So if I go into my profile, you'll see that I've got the status of rent rather than an owner or a guest. Okay. So other than that, everything else would be the same process. You would fill in that information. And likewise, once coded, you will have a badge here that shows your status as a renter in the building. Now what has changed is one level of access higher is the renter now has access to a few more files, particularly the blog. Now that person as a renter can read the blog posts from administration and from other condo board members and the property manager, and can even comment or provide feedback on that particular post right down here. As well, if we go into either that one or this one, we can go to renter files. That's the shortcut. You'll now see a new page that renters have access to, such as pre-authorization forms, if there's a reason for a pre-authorization form, such as renting a locker or renting a stall, that may be required. Okay, for owners, of course, condo fees would be relevant on that form. And then there's another one here for condo bylaws. So those are two of the more popular forms, but there's a whole plethora of other documents that are now available to tenants within the building, so rental tenants. And they can get all of them by clicking this one, or they can go shortcuts by clicking those items. Now you'll notice that you do have to create a free Gmail account. You can either create a new Gmail or you can use your existing email, but regardless, you have to do it on the Gmail platform. Reason being is Google Drive is archiving these private documents, and I have to manually code levels of access to each of those for every tenant once registered. So they only have access to certain approved files. So let's assume that that's already been created. We're going to click on Common Files, and it's now going to ask me to log in. So I'm going to log in using my profile. And now what you'll see is that I have a whole directory of subarticles, which those are all shortcutted right here. But if you click on Common Files for all tenants, you'll get all of the directories that you have access to. So if you want to look at past newsletters or the condo bylaws, maybe city bylaws, newsletters, provincial laws, files specifically for renters, you could go into those. But if you want to get the condo bylaws at any time, or anything new that we add there would be relevant in this particular folder. Now, as a renter only, you won't be able to go back any farther in this directory structure to the ones that the owners can access. If you do, you'll just get an error that you don't have access to it. Because I'm a super user, I have access to all of them, so I can't show you that feature, but when you sign up for yourself, you'll notice this restriction. Okay, so that's about it. Everything else pretty much stays the same from a renter's perspective. Next, we'll go on to what it looks like for an owner. All right, moving along to the fourth level of access is an owner access. So anybody who owns a condo in the building and either lives in it or lives off the property and is renting it out, you would be classified as an owner. So everything holds true for what we said on the last three options. But now you're going to be an elevated status with even more levels of access. So assuming all of the account has already been created and coded properly, you're going to log in using your ownership access. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so this particular profile has now been coded as an owner. You can check that by going down to the My Profile page. And you'll see that this particular owner has been coded as an owner living on site. Well, what if someday I change and I move off site and decide to rent out my unit? I would change that status to live off site, and I could change any other information that is relevant at that time, and I would hit submit, and then the database has now been freshly updated with that new position. Okay. So what has happened, likewise with renters, the Balmoral owners have access to everything that the renters have access to, but they also have access to another level of membership. So again, the blog, but now they have access to what's called condo related documents. So these are specifically tailored to owners of the property. Now, likewise, they've got all access to all the same files that the renters did, but they've got a whole new category of files that are for private purposes, not meant for renters. Such things as the annual general meeting announcements and documents, board minutes, reserve funds, condo resources, operating statements, things that you might need to access for helping to manage the property if you're on the board, or if you just want to be more involved in understanding what's going on with the condo, or someday you decide to sell the property, you'll have access to all the archived documents that your real estate agent may need to help you sell the property, and without having to pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for the property manager to dig into the archives and produce all these documents. They should all be there. As part of our condo fees as owners, we are paying for these documents. Why should we have to pay again to have somebody dig them out of an archive and send them to us? Okay. All right. Now, if you click on the owner files, you'll see that we come to the same Google profile. I've already logged in. So now it shows me the owner files as well. So not only do we have access to that common tenant files that we had access to as a renter, but we have a higher level of access to more and more documents, operating statements, and so forth. So if we wanted to pull off some old files, we could simply pull that up, double click that, and that PDF is protected by username, so you have to be coded as an owner to be able to open these things. You can't even share the link with someone after the fact, but that file can now be opened and downloaded by any owner. All right, so that is the status there as an owner. Everything else stays the same that we've discussed previously. Next, we'll go on to what the board members will see. Okay, so the final user classification we're going to look at is somebody who's an owner of the building, obviously, who qualifies to be a member of the board of directors for the condo association. So we'll call that person a super user who is almost full administrator of the site. So we're going to assume the same thing again. The profile has already been coded correctly at the back end to flag that person as an owner and a board member. So I'm going to log in using a sample board member access. Okay, now you can see up there that it says board member, and when I go down to my profile, you'll see that this flag is now turned on, showing that this person is a member of the board and might be living off-site, might be living on-site, doesn't really matter. Owners don't have to be present to be a board member, but the badge shows clearly that this person is also a condo board member. So if we go to that person's personal public profile, it would show the badge as a condo board member. This member is on the condo board of directors for the current year. Okay, so what does that person have access to? Well, everything else that the renters and owners have access to, but also a new one called board files. So the same documents that everybody else has, common tenant files, all the owner files, but also specific files directly for the board members, such as drafts of documents, the energy statements for the condo board, any issues that are coming up. Maybe there's various issues about certain units in the building. All of this private information that the board members are dealing with will be shown only to qualified and approved board members. So that's one of the most important features for board members. But the big one is in the administration of the back office. So certain board members will have access to the back office to administer the site. Not necessarily everybody needs access to it, but there's going to be one or two for sure that will have access, and likely the property manager. So once that access has been granted, some of the things you'll be able to see is managing customers, for example. So these are some of the profiles. You can see the ones that I've already coded in here that are clearly flagged as whether they're an owner, renter, an Airbnb guest, board member, condo board member, and that the badge shows up here. So we can edit some of the information directly from there. But some of the neat features I've built into this platform are specific management features that are unique to certain guests. Now what I want to do, because I'm logged in as a board member, I also want to show you how we can edit some of that by the member permissions. So through the member permissions, this is where the site administrator, myself, would grant access to new guests that have registered on the site as one of these various categories. What I want to do is just show you how we add one to the short-term guest. And I'm going to add the member, being myself in this case, as the board member, because I want something populated in that one category. All right, now if I go back to member permissions, you'll see that there's now one guest in the short-term guest record. Going back to the site members, you can now see that this board member right here is a board member, an owner, and a short-term guest, and that'll become important in a second. So what I'm going to do is go back to the main menu as an administrator, and we'll just go through these various categories in sequence. So we have a back office administration window just for Airbnb guests. So if someone is renting out their unit and we have a guest that's currently in the building, they should be registered on here, and we can see who that person is just by clicking on it. And we can manage some of that detail. So this way, when we know who's in the building, if there is an issue or somebody's unit is being rented out to an Airbnb guest or a home share guest of some kind, whether it's Airbnb or another one, we have access to that information in case of an emergency. Next one we can go to is parking stalls. So if we want to find out who's in what stall, we have this window of opportunity to look at that. So let's take a look at the Balmoral Manor, let's see here, the board member. So we'll just do the one that I'm working on right now. And you can see all those details and manage them right from here. So we can either delete the record if the person moves out of the building. The administrator or administrators, board members have access to this. We can delete those records and then start to remove access privileges to people who are no longer in the building. We don't want them accessing that information any further. Likewise, bike stalls, we'll be able to find out who is in what bike stall. Just at a glance, okay? And if we want more detail, we obviously just click into those guests that have a bike stall. Going down to guests, we would know who is temporarily in the building as a guest, maybe staying with another tenant, not renting long-term and not an Airbnb rental, but a short-term guest. Those people would show up here. If we want to know who in the building is renting only, not living in it, we would see all the classifications for renters in the building. Likewise, owners. So if we need to send out a bulletin to just owners, we'll know who to send it out to based on this list right here. And again, we can manage some of that information for people if they phone in and say, hey, can you update my phone number? They don't have access to the internet right now, or they just forgot to do it. They can send that information in to a board member who can update it. All right, so the bike room key, as one of our security measures, we need to know who in the building has access to bike room keys in case something goes missing or is lost and stolen. We can reissue keys to everybody who's got one, and all that database is tracked here for the property manager and the board members to access. Authorized board members, that is. Okay, so the back office admin basically is a snapshot of who's on the board and who is an occupant. Okay. Next section would be back office lockers. So if there's people that have a storage locker downstairs, we know whose stuff is in which locker. So if there is a theft or a break-in, we know right away who to look for and notify. Okay, and then the blog, if we're going to create a new article about something, we can certainly post a new post right in here. We can edit existing ones just by clicking on it. And this is an article I wrote up about the heat exchangers in the building, for example, that those need to be cleaned out every once in a while. And some pictures on how to do it, some news articles. So this is how the property manager and thus can add new posts to the community blog very, very quickly. Okay. So that is about the extent of the back office as far as a board member goes who have access to certain elevated privileges that nobody else has access to. So thank you for taking a look at what it is that we're building here and how we could possibly build one for your business or your association. Okay, so that is the in-depth analysis and demonstration of the back office and the front office of a condo membership-based platform that we could build for your condo or any condo. Some of our clients and testimonials that they've given us over the past, obviously they love this style of website and they're able to self-manage the majority of it for themselves, but there are advanced features that if you need, we can certainly help manage that for you. So in summary, I believe all condo associations need a membership-based, self-manageable community website presence. And here's some of the benefits. Better communication to all residents. We can manage turnover and enhance security in the building far more effectively with this type of website. Control costs of administration. Obviously, if you have to send out documents at an expensive fee versus being able to pull them down yourself in PDF format, one is better than the other and saves a lot of money for everybody. Encourage feedback between all stakeholders in the building. Allow for self-management via variable permissioned access levels. So depending whether you're a guest, renter, owner, or board member, there's certain levels of access you'll have access to, and you'll be able to control that information and manage it on your own. And finally, as the big one, build a sense of community. The more that members are aware of who's in the building, that we can keep an eye on it for security reasons, know who's coming and going and who shouldn't be here. Plus, we just build really good, solid friendships. So if you want to get a proposal for your condo, just visit us at that direct link. Takes you to the shortcut on our page, www.webdesign.thoughtworks.com. And just read through some of the information there, fill in the intake form, and we will get back to you. So again, thank you for your attention. There's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions, concerns. If you need some advice on how to access the platform and need a personal tour, again, let me know. All right, have a great day.